Well, man, in the words of Jerry Garcia, what a long, strange trip it's fucking been. Um, as I've told you before, I'm 70 years old. I was born in 1955. I figured today would be a good time to actually give you the true backstory on why my life has been predestined, and I believe I'm fulfilling prophecy. What prophecy? The prophecy to tell the truth about the plant. What's led me to this? Well, in 68, you've heard me talk before about my brother Ronnie came home from Vietnam. He brought seeds home in the seams of his duffel bag, a lot of them. And they came from Thailand, I believe. That's what we attributed it to. And he also brought home a heroin addiction, which later killed him. It was one of my earliest experience with the drug culture, and actually made me a true child of the drug culture going back to when I was 11, 12 years old. This being said, this was really a time of unrest. You know, it seems like now everybody forgets about just how crazy it was back then. I mean, does anybody remember that there was over 1,900 domestic terroristic bombings in 1972? It seems to be all forgotten. When I was a kid, and I was like 12, 13 years old during the race riots in Cleveland, I looked down out of my brother's apartment in West Cleveland, and I could see the tanks and the National Guard marching down the streets, buildings burning. The whole fucking city was in flames. I don't think people want to recall this, or if they do, they try to avoid it. Now, let me give you a little further background on myself. Like I said, I was a true child of the drug culture. By the time I was 11 years old, I'd already went and seen Rick Derringer and the McCoys. Famous song of theirs, "Hang On Sloopy." By the time 2 more years rolled by, we were practicing. Me and my little rock band was practicing in the patio of my father's dairy store, and the trailers and the bus rolled in for Tommy James and the Shondells. Of course, Crimson and Clover being a classic song that came from them, along with Hanky Panky. But like I said, it was just very ironic and almost fate-driven that I was to encounter these people at such an early age. Now, don't mind me if I consult my notes here, because there's a lot to talk about. By the time I was probably 18, I had already went and seen David Crosby and Graham Nash, David Crosby and Graham Nash, Neil Young, David Crosby, Graham Nash, Stephen Stills, and all the variations of. But actually, the most memorable concert was I actually got to smoke and talk to David Crosby, which is really, really classic, man. That was a little concert at the Stanley Theater, I think, the Stanley Theater down in Pittsburgh before it was demolished years ago. And I waited like 15 hours so I could sit in the orchestra bin and be right up front. And I had a bunch of people huddled around me. I had a hookah, and we were smoking some of the most delicious bud that you ever wanted to taste. And when they broke, David came over to the corner of the stage and said, "That must be some good herb, man. Can I have a hit?" And it was such an honor to pass my hose to take a draw. Was very into the Jefferson Airplane, of course. Paul Kantner, Gracie Slick. When they broke up, I split it into Hot Tuna and the Jefferson Starship. Of course, always into the Grateful Dead. But then some very ironic and unique experiences started happening to me. Now, a lot of this had to do with, I always had the best weed. I was a cultivator from when I was a kid. I was really good at it. So no matter where I went from when I was a young teenager, and this is back in, in the 70s, late 60s, I had badass weed. I mean, we're talking about Tommy James and, Rick Derringer, seeing him back in like 1967. I went to the last concert. I was at the last concert that the Eagles played in 1980 before their permanent breakup that went on for, I don't know, 13, 14 years, 15 years. Yeah, I was at the Syria Mosque for the Jefferson Airplane concert, one of the earliest concerts as a Jefferson Airplane. They were in the transition into the Starship, and there was an American flag hung over the second, off the balcony, a full-size American flag, and during the encore, people holding up their lighters, the flag caught on fire, the whole fucking place was burning, and Gracie Slick was wailing out songs of revolution. Quite the memorable night as we cleared the building to escape the fire. Now, I told you I came from farming and the timber business. That had grown into a substantial industry for me, or business, by the time I was, I don't know, in my mid-20s. I had went through the period where I was logging with horses, is up here behind me. Of course, you know, just back around 2015, 16, I retired from drag racing street bikes, 8 and 9 second street bikes without wheelie bars. The picture up in the top corner is during the period that I rode with the East Coast Hells Angels. God bless them, AFFA. Of course, Dr. Tank. With my beard when I came out of the Caribbean a few years ago to get arrested and face 20 years mandatory minimum in Florida for cultivating. And of course, up in this corner, the flag of the conquering Lion of Judah, which is the root and core of my faith going back to the late 70s. Actually, Peter Tosh was a great mentor of mine. Thus is the reason my nickname, the Bush Doctor. I mean, I was around during the Chicago 7 conspiracy trials back in '68. We forget about all this too. That was at the Democratic National Convention. The Students for Democratic Society and the Weathermen Undermen protested heavily, and wound up in the Chicago conspiracy trials with Jerry Rubin, Abby Hoffman, two of the most famous revolutionaries, far leftists we ever had in this country. The timber business ended with a catastrophic fire, $965,000 loss. Only had $635,000 worth of insurance, so that was a no-brainer. Had to go into the strip club business. That was my only way out. It was either that or go on welfare, and I was too proud, too hard working for that. By the time 2000 came around, actually I was out in Vegas for the Internet Adult Convention, and it was there that I became friends with Jenna Jameson. I got to meet Ice Cube, Parliament, at a big party at the Venetian 2K, at the Y2K bar at the Venetian Hotel. Ended up getting the set with Marilyn Chambers, the Queen of Porn, who, of course, I don't know if you know this, she's the Ivory Snow baby, the little naked baby on the Ivory Snow box from years ago. That's how Marilyn started her porn career. Years later, I got to get high with Dickie Betts behind the Crowbar one night and drink a beer while he was taking a break from his show. And when I was out in Vegas, I got to also meet Sylvester Stallone. One night I was stoned out of my ass and staggered across the set of Get Carter. And 3 o'clock in the morning, he didn't have a clue who I was, but it was damn cool. And then I believe it was in 2010. Denzel Washington came and sought me out at the End Zone, my club. I was already in Florida, but looking for me because he heard from the bar staff downtown I had the best weed. Don't lie, Denzel. Hey, blessings, folks. We'll tell you some more about my past next time around. Peace out. Have a blessed day.